a go. Okay. 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call our select board meeting of Tuesday, May 22nd to order. And the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I'll move to improve it.
One second.
One thing, item of note is we have an executive session following the meeting to discuss contract negotiations. All in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, next is minutes of May 8th, 2018 Select Board meeting.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded.
Second.
Are there any requested changes to the minutes?
On line 601, it says, Khan gave praise to police officers who rescue their lives. It should be risks their lives.
What is that now? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
A
that.
typo.
Line 601.
Yeah.
960.
Mhm.
Risk versus rescue. Okay, any other amendments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor with the one amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Next item is citizen comments. Is there anyone here for something that is not on the warrant agenda? Okay, then we'll go into public safety, and Laura and Chief Shaw.
So, you know, we've had a ladder truck, an old ladder truck that we've been trying to sell, and we've put it out to bid, and we haven't gotten any responses even after a lot of advertising effort. But we did receive a bid from Heffernan for $7,000 for the old ladder truck, and we recommend accepting that bid at this point so that we can at least move that piece of equipment on to its next life. So, I don't know, David, if there's anything else that you wanted to add to that.
No, I think it's well done, thank you.
Okay.
So is there a typo when you say the scrap value is $66,000?
66,000 is the weight of the vehicle, the weight.
I said $66,000 here.
Oh, how much was so you estimated that the scrap value of the rig was approximately how much
I'm
then?
not sure that did I ever,
Oh,
I'm not
I don't know if we
familiar
did.
with the minutes.
66,000 pounds.
Is the pounds, is the weight of the vehicle.
We should change this.
66,000 pounds, not dollars. Okay,
Right.
so that's,
That would be great.
Yeah, it looks like a huge.
I figured that was a typo.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
thank you for noting that, yeah. So I don't know if any other members of the board have any other questions about that piece of equipment.
Any questions? Do you know what they're planning on doing with
I
it?
think Peaker wants the engine and transmission. Yeah,
Okay.
he'll scrap the rest.
Mhm.
And you know Peaker, I'm not sure what all that's gonna come up to. but
Right.
It's his business.
So that will give us space.
Yeah, we can get the rest of our equipment back in the building. We have some stored here and some stored there.
Mhm.
And so it'd be nice to get it all back together, yes.
And we are looking forward to showcasing
Yep. We
that
have open
space.
house on Memorial Day right after the parade,
I'll make it this
barbecue,
time.
and we got a special hot dog for you, Ron, and to show all the equipment, we'll have the new ladder in the parade and our primary engine, and then we've got the old antique fired up, and the boys have been working on it now for 2 months, and it's
So
running
that's
again, so
gonna
it'll
be
be great.
fun, right?
It'll be fun, yeah.
And actually,
So
that,
Laura, would you care to make a motion?
well, just to finish that, because I really am excited.
We have a
about-
full schedule
I know,
tonight.
but the fire, I do hope that people will come, like after the parade, between the two parades, if you're attending, and stop by the fire station and see what's going on in there. There's incredible archival material and training material, that really points to the fact that our firefighters are doing very complex rescue operations. So please come and enjoy a snack and just see what's going on. So I'll move that we accept the bid for the town's 1993 ladder truck from John Heffernan for $7,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any final questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Looks like you got some space there, chief.
Thanks.
Okay, Chief Hanley.
Looks like we're
Not
running
here.
a little bit early.
I'm gonna skip over that, and we'll go to entertainment permit from Middlebury Hearth American Flatbed. And Daniel Boyce, owner of American Flatbread, Middlebury Hearth and Marble Works, has submitted an application for an entertainment permit for the restaurant. The application is for music on occasion, sometimes presented outside in the courtyard behind the building, from Tuesday to Saturday between the hours of 2 and 12 a.m., 2 p.m. and 12 a.m. Chief Hanley reviewed the application and has recommended the following conditions. The applicant must comply with all Vermont Department of Liquor Control regulations for outside consumption of alcohol, and noise must be contained so as not to be disruptive to neighboring homes and businesses. To be in compliance with Middlebury's noise ordinance, therefore it is recommended that music end no later than 10 p.m., Tuesday through Thursday. On Friday and Saturday, music would be permitted until 12 a.m. as requested in the application. The permit application with the recommended conditions was in your packet. And I don't know, is Daniel Boyce here?
No, she's not. She's very busy right now.
Okay. And so, thoughts of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the entertainment permit application for Middlebury Hearth American Flatbread, subject to the conditions noted by Police Chief Tom Hanley.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any final comments, questions? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. A little bit early here, so do you know the details on Chief's request of the,
I do not.
okay.
Well, it seems
It
kind of
comes.
straightforward.
Here he's coming. Here's
Okay,
Chief.
Okay. I was gonna-
Chief, we're ready for you.
Okay.
We had you early in the agenda so we could release you. So if you want to come up, we've already approved an entertainment permit, so that I think the item of business is the site maintenance bid and emergency replacement of a police cruiser.
All right, I guess I'll do the site bids first. We're the only town department that doesn't have anybody working maintenance on the building. And so it's been kind of ad hoc on some of the work we did over the years and getting the lawn mowed. And we had a contract for lawn mowing, but not for snow removal or taking care of the grounds itself. So last year, we contracted with Brian Novak at Crazy Squirrel Landscaping to take care of the snow plowing for us, keep the driveways clear in the winter in the snow. We're open 24/7, so I've got to have somebody there at 3 in the morning or whenever the place needs to be cleaned to get them in there and clean. And I'll tell you, he's done a wonderful job. Anyway, we developed a bid with 3 parts to the bid, one for mowing and just general trimming and things like that, another bid for snow plowing, and another bid to take care of the gardens in the front. We advertised the bids in March with a closing date of May 11th. We took out an ad in the Independent as well as posting on our websites. I got 1 bid back, and that was from Brian Novak. I'm guessing maybe for the mowing, we probably should put that out in the fall. I'm sure most of the people probably already have contracts by that time of the year, but the snow plowing, I was surprised we got no interest at all, or the garden maintenance. But those are the only bids we have. And how we do these bids is we evaluate them by hour, because we don't know how many times they're gonna plow snow. You know, that's a budget issue, as we try to figure out, try to estimate when it comes to budget time, as opposed to putting it in the bid. It's best to do comparative analysis based on what they're gonna charge us and how long it'll take to do each part of the job. So that's how we bid that out. So the only bid we got was from Brian Novak for all 3. And he subcontracts the garden maintenance to an employee of his.
Questions of Chief?
Nope. It seems like due diligence was done, and we've got somebody that the chief thinks is a good contractor, so I would move the order to accept Crazy Squirrel Landscaping for mowing, gardening, and snow removal at the police department facility at the quoted hourly rates.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
All right, as far as the police car goes, I'm coming before you tonight because we got a call from Dick at Foster Motors about a week and a half ago. They had ordered several police cars as part of a prospectus on bids, and one of the cars wasn't sold. So we said, we have a Dodge Charger here coming in a week or two. It was supposed to be later this week or next week. It's a police package. It meets all your specifications. We have the car there. We looked at that and figured, how long is it going to take us to rebid this if we were going to bid for one of the cars to replace the one that was destroyed? And I'm looking at probably 5 months, which to go through that process again was difficult. Foster Motors was the low bid on a sedan anyway, although their price here that they're willing to sell this car is a bit higher than what they had bid on in January. So I understand that it's not a competitive bid process, and this is what they have, and this is what they're willing to sell it for. And I gave you the prices. The bid price in January was $27,286. The price now is $29,254. It's about a $2,000 difference. The advantages with the sedan is all the equipment from the destroyed car can be simply moved into the Charger. It's the same model. Everything survived the wreck. So we can just pull everything out of that car. We don't have to buy anything. Just pull it out, replace it, and put it in a new car if we so desire to acquire this car. There was some insurance money that came in, which will pay some of that, and Kathleen, I think, can give you the more details on that. The loan on the financing on the other car was paid off, and there was some residual that was left on the value of the car that we got from that.
Just over $21,000 in insurance money was received for that car.
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting. I was almost thinking, it struck me as something that just Kathleen could sign because we already approved the car previously, and this is insurance replacement of the damaged vehicle we approved. So, given the scenario, foster people, they've always been good, honest. They're ours. We've got a car available. Add to the fact that everything that survived the car crash included Officer Emilio. So it says a lot about the vehicle itself. They did a good job. So this is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that, we do generally go through a competitive bid prices for these cars, and here it just seemed we have the same kind of car to transfer the equipment in. I don't know what we're going to save at this point by going out to a bid. Right now, we're using a car from the Colchester Police Department. We've got 2 of our older cars that we have taken out for special services are back on the road. So it'd be nice to actually get everything back up to snuff with equipment. And this will have some effect on our regular cruiser replacement. Some years down the road, it won't next year. We're on a 212. We now will get 3 new cars this year, 1 next year, and then probably 2 or 3 years down the road, we'll catch up to that cycle and may be able to get a 1 car year, 2 years in a row, instead of a 212.
Right now, we have an emergency. We have to deal with it.
Yes.
We'll worry about that part later. So I'm comfortable with it. So I'll make a motion in order to approve the emergency purchase of a Dodge Charger from Foster Motors, replacement cruiser for a total cost of $29,254.
Second. Moved and seconded. Are there any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
So when do we expect to have it in service? Roughly?
It'll take at least a month
Okay.
by the time we get things transferred over and get the car on site.
Better than 5 or 6.
Oh, definitely, definitely. We've got to give that car back to Colchester, too.
And then, thank you to
That was a
Colchester.
great letter of appreciation, and thank you.
Well, we appreciate everything
Yeah.
everybody's done for us.
Kathleen, how's this for timing?
Amazing.
Amazing.
So
I
tonight,
could say a few.
So tonight, the Select Board is conducting a public hearing to take comment from the community regarding the Actor bus stops on Main Street at the post office and adjacent to the town green next to St. Stephen's Church. The town issued a work in the right-of-way permit for the 2 bus stops last December, with the provision that a review to be conducted after 3 months. As a result, Town of Middlebury Public Works Operations Director Bill Kernan and Actor Regional Director Bill Cunningham have been working diligently over the last several weeks to develop a recommendation for the downtown bus stops going forward. Now, open the meeting at the public hearing. I will invite Bill to present their recommendation first, and then we will open the floor to any member of the Middlebury community wishing to comment. Because this is an official public hearing, if members of the public have a question or comment after being recognized by myself, please come up to the microphone and state your first name and last name for the record, and speaking into the mic clearly so that those that are on TV can hear as well, and direct your feedback to the select board so we can accurately capture in the minutes those comments that are to be made. Also, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to print your name clearly on the sign-in sheet by the door before you leave. We recognize that the Main Street bus stops have been the subject of much discussion in town over the last few months, and that many of you are anxious to offer your thoughts and suggestions. Out of consideration for all present who would like an opportunity to speak tonight, I would ask that you keep your comments brief and to the point. We will keep the hearing open until everyone has had the chance to speak, but given the several remaining agenda items that the board still needs to discuss tonight, you may not have an opportunity to speak more than once. With that, at 7:18, I will declare the public meeting open, and I will start by inviting Bill Kernan and Bill Cunningham to come forward and make their presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bill.
So, yeah, when this permit was written, we obviously, like you stated, put a 3-month review in there. During that review, we found some operational issues. We've also heard quite a bit from the public and business owners. And talking with Bill on that, we tried to come up with a compromise that would both fit with Actor and also give some parking back. Hopefully we've done that. And we can answer questions, and we have a few slides here to review. You want to review these, Bill?
Yeah, this shows our current bus stops. You can see how they're laid out around town. So what we're talking about right now is the post office and the...
Would you like a longer pointer?
So what we're talking about is the post office and the green side. Well, let's keep going through.
Okay.
Go to the next slide. We'll go right to some recommended options. Do you want to come in on this, Bill, or?
We don't think there's any perfect fit down here. So we're trying to figure out how to give some parking back and still allow Actor to maintain the routing. So this is one option. 3 parking spaces on the green side would go back to parking spaces, and Actor Bus was proposed to basically stop across the crosswalk. And is that because of conflicts with pedestrians and parked cars, Bill, that it would need to be on the crosswalk there?
To give back the parking, we had to have a safe place. It was determined that the safest place would be at the crosswalk. You'd still have your 20-foot crosshatch. You would have a planter to shield pedestrians, if you will. It's not against the law to stop on the crosswalk, but it is not a best practice. It's not a safe situation. Sight lines are compromised. When we started looking at these different options, safety was first priority. The other side, there would be a line of demarcation about 10 feet from the crosswalk, which would mean the bus has to stop back. The bus cannot pull right up to the curb. It provides better sight line on this side. You have, as you're on the sidewalk, you have sight line to the north. As you come out, you've got the 10 feet buffer, a bit better sightline. This side, 2,600 passengers have gotten on and off in the 4-month period. This side, only 1,300, so it's double on the other side. We can go to the next one. Just an aerial view of the next option, which is to take, yep, go ahead, Captain, thank you. And the other option would be to maintain the post office stop. That has been working out well. It took one parking space away. But we would move the green side bus stop down to the Battelle block area. In the same, we had great discussion last night about this stop, all focused on safety. What came out from this, there was no clear consensus that this was, could be endorsed by the safety committee. We talked with Chief Hanley after, who had a lot of great discussion about safety in that area in general. It's an intersection, busy intersection. We have determined that we would move the bus stop back 20 feet from the crosswalk. We went down today and did some trials. Any bus coming into that area would be putting on their flashers, stopping 20 feet back from the crosswalk. That provides good line of sight. Any bus coming down Main Street should be stopping if there's somebody at the crosswalk, irregardless of if they're a bus passenger or not. So we feel that that compromise or that stipulation will make that area safe for both bus passengers and pedestrians. Today, when the bus stopped, cars were very orderly. A typical boarding or disembark takes 30 seconds to a minute. It's not a long time. It is a long time if you're in a car in a busy place like Middlebury, but it's one of the compromises we're all going to have to make.
I'd just add to that, obviously this gives the spaces back at the green. This also eliminates the bus stop that's currently right over here at the library, which oftentimes the bus is stopped in the lane of traffic, just like here. So it eliminates that stop and basically just moves it several hundred feet down the road.
Yes, thank you, Bill.
And in this scenario, this bus stop really is no different than somebody stopping for somebody in the crosswalk already, other than the time that it's gonna be stopped there for people to get on and off.
What we found at the library stop was when people got out in front by the cars to wait for a bus, all the cars coming down Main Street would think they were crossing and stop anyways. There's no crosswalk there, but people were stopping. So as Bill mentioned, there is no, it's the same situation as we have it currently at the library. But I think better controlled down at Battelle.
And in speaking with Actor, again, this directional stop here only gets half the ridership that the one at the post office gets. And I believe Bill said if there's nobody needing to get off and there's nobody waiting to get on, the bus would not stop, right?
It will not stop.
So,
We have clear sight line down Main Street, much better than we have coming up and over the bridge.
and what we're trying to do collectively here is get through the construction. That's another, 2.5, 3 years. Find a solution that works for that long, and then probably have to revisit this again.
Okay.
Questions of them? Please come forward.
Ann LaFiandra, I don't understand this second option. Could you please walk me through it?
You want me to go to the
As in
aerial
which street
shot?
is which crosswalk? I just don't see it.
To the aerial. So to orient you, this is the post office stop. It will
Thank you.
remain the same. This is the Battelle building.
Yes.
The bus stop would be relocated from currently at the Episcopal Green
Okay.
back down to the Bethel building. It would be 20 feet back from the crosswalk as a mandatory place to stop. That's a requirement by the state. What it does is it provides much better sightline coming down Main Street for the bus drivers. It gives them plenty of opportunity to put their flashers on, stop in a controlled manner, and pick up passengers and move along.
I just didn't understand which crosswalk you were referring to. Now I'm oriented. Thank you. I understand your arguments.
Yes.
So which option is Actor and Public Works recommending?
Safety was always a priority. We'd like the process to play through. Actor could live with either one,
Okay,
but we want what's best for the downtown. We do business downtown as well, so with safety as the first priority, there was great discussion last night at the safety committee meeting.
And you're saying they're equally safe?
Well, that they equally have safety issues compared to what we had at the green when you could pull off to the side. But it's something that we can live with as a compromise.
Putting my safety hat on, I would say the Patel block is safer. I would say the Patel block stop is safer.
Because of the sight lines.
Sight lines. We have much better control in that crosswalk area, even though it's a dangerous intersection.
That sounds,
Right,
Right.
so
Good sense to
the
me.
meeting that Bill is referring to is the Public Health and Safety Committee meeting. That's
yeah.
where we vetted a lot of this.
Well,
And
that is a good consideration,
Yeah.
and what you're saying is that the second option seems to be the safer one. Is that correct?
yes,
Public Works would agree with that also.
Yeah.
There's no
Okay.
conflicts with parked cars and people walking between cars, cars
Right.
backing out.
Right. And as you say, there are frequent stops anyway because it is a crosswalk, so the, yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Joe Laramie. I'm the postmaster in Middlebury. And I think one safety concern that you haven't even brought up is my people coming out of the post office. Extremely dangerous behind your buses. We're blind. It's always a bad spot, even before there was a bus stop there. Much better with the circle than it used to be. Here, the rotary. So I think you need to address the safety issue there, because the egress for my people and my trucks, that's important too.
are you talking about both sides, or?
No, leaving the post office from our parking lot.
Okay, so you're talking about the bus stop on your side?
Yes, I would much rather see the bus stop on the other side and removed from my side.
Oh,
The handicap spot is on my side, is not used. To me, that's not fair to the handicapped people of Middlebury. It should be on my side, on the post office side. And then we touch revenue. I'm down 5% in 2017 from 2016. 2018, I'm currently down 5% again. My walk-in visits are down 22% in week ending May 18th. And May 11th, I was down about 7%. East Middlebury is up 9%. So you are affecting my business. And we don't receive any tax dollars. The post office runs on the revenue we bring in. I think you're hurting my business more than any business downtown. And I really believe the handicap spot being removed on the post office side is a detriment to the people of Middlebury.
I'd like to address a question to you. As I understand it, one of the arguments for having that bus stop is so people could frequent the post office. Is there a solution that I mean, it seems to me, I'm happy to see the wisdom of the other side, in other words, removing it and put it, is there a solution, other than keeping the other side? I'm just thinking around the corner.
The first year, last year, we offered Actor to pull into our post office, turn around there, come out, and allow people on at that point. There are times in the day when I have trucks come in, but I think we worked around that. Like I said, 30 seconds to a minute, you're boarding and leaving. We can handle that.
You're talking about the 2-week Middlebury shuttle, and it did not work well.
It didn't work well.
Moving back there was always a lot in the way.
They're always, and there's more now because we are leasing space to V-Trans, and they're using some parking in the office.
One thing about option B, you get 3 parking spaces back.
Yes.
We are very, very aware of the traffic coming out of the driveway. As you said, it's 30 seconds to a minute. A vehicle has to stop
Yeah.
anyways and assess what's coming down the hill or up the street. Pedestrian safety is paramount. Vehicles have a little bit more protection,
Oh, certainly.
but
Yeah.
we have, in our discussions, everything centered around safety. It was good to hear you say, we understand the trucks come in the morning and then again about 2 p.m. Is that a correct statement?
Morning, between 8 and 9, and then around 2, and then we have another truck at 5:30.
So the buses shouldn't be there very long, should be moving right along. Certainly willing to work with you on any mitigation that we can do for the driveway.
I understand that would be more difficult now because we are, we've taken up 5 more spots inside the lot with V-Trans. My people are twiddling their thumbs quite often. It's a quiet time of year to begin with, but it's deathly quiet in there.
With the dedicated 3 spots back, that should help.
I hope.
Now, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, there was never 2 handicap spots there?
No, to clarify, that spot was moved. It's still there. It's not currently marked because of winter scrubbing off the pavement, but there is a handicap. Just got moved from one side of the crosswalk to the other
Yeah,
on the post office
It is
side.
there.
Is there a sign up?
Yes.
Because I haven't
Yes.
seen it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, good. My mistake.
Now, we ran into winter, so
It was a tough one.
the markings weren't properly done. And we have just been waiting for some kind of resolution to get that area properly marked and safer.
All right. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add that, in all of this that we've worked through over the past several months, we've looked at many, many other options. We discussed Seymour Street, we discussed Merchants Row. Actor has moved from one end of South Pleasant to the other and then back again, and I mean, we have scratched our heads on this as hard as we can.
My name's Amy Ryan. Maybe you've already discussed this, so forgive me if I'm jumping into committee work. What concerns me about the Battelle Block stop is 2 things. One, I think we have a consumer behavior issue to address. 2, I've seen Glenn Peck dismantling the flag, or not the flag, but the banner, and he's got a gigantic bucket truck out there. He's got cones all the way around it, and people still pull out around him to go in the northbound lane when he's taking down those banners. Did you consider moving that stop back this way, moving these parking spaces forward and moving the bus stop so that it's between this median and the sidewalk so that there's no temptation for anybody to pass the bus on the left? It's not that much farther from here to the end of the Battelle Block. And it seems to me if the ridership is lower, this is the central location of this spot rather than the Patel block is, to me, more likely to serve the places that the bus ridership might be utilizing downtown.
The stop is not as well used. We do need to service the other end of town. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when Glenn Peck is there, he's there for an extended period of time?
Yeah, I mean, he's there for, I don't know, probably 15 minutes or so. And some traffic does stop, but I've definitely also seen people sort of zip right around him. And that would be my fear, is that the bus is stopped down there and somebody goes, you know, if you're 20 feet back from the crosswalk and somebody's in the crosswalk, then there's no line of sight from a vehicle approaching the rear of the bus into the crosswalk.
Bus will be putting on flashers ahead of the stop. It's a crosswalk. People should not be doing that.
I agree with you.
And,
But because I'm right there, I see it all the time.
and right past this last spot, the road narrows, you would not be able to slide these down any further and still maintain the lane width. So you'd, if we put a bus stop here, we'd end up losing spaces, or again, it would be stopped in the road.
Okay, just a thought.
Nancy Malcolm, Middlebury. Another spot that hasn't been talked about, and I've noticed, is there have been 3 spaces that have been removed on Washington Street right in front of Coriander, and it says bus stop right there. And I live out there, I walk out there daily, and I have never seen a bus stop there. And yet there are 3 spaces that are not used by anybody. So I'm wondering if that could also be a consideration, and that also is not very far from the post office.
So we're talking about,
Doesn't the bus stop at the Middlebury Inn also?
I'm sorry?
No.
The Middlebury Inn, the bus stops there or no?
No.
No, it's right,
parking there.
it's on the north side of Washington Street, right before coming into the Middlebury Inn. It's LaBerge, Insurance, and Coriander, and there's 3 spaces that used to be parking there, and now they are not accessible.
Right.
And there doesn't seem to be any bus stop there, buses stopping there.
They do. It's just not necessarily a well-utilized stop. It's just up on the Peterson route. Primary reason for these downtown stops is the Tri-Town. That's where most of the passenger traffic comes from. We wouldn't be able to, it would operationally affect our schedule to a fairly significant degree. You would also have the mobility issue getting down the hill. We did not take any parking away there. It's meant to be a stop in the street. It goes along with Governor's initiative and V-Trans that is pushing us to accept flag downs. So that is at least a marked spot. People do get on there, but it's not, I'd have to look at numbers. It's not.
I guess what I'm saying is, I'm asking actually that they be put back as parking spaces then. And I also know that if there is a need and somebody has accessibility issues, they stop no matter what, wherever. So they don't need a dedicated spot for that. They make special stops for that person. And so I don't see that it is necessary to take up those 3 spots right there, or they can stop right there and let somebody out if somebody needs to be.
Speaking only as from actors, we did not take any spots there, nor did we request any parking spots.
Perhaps then they could be put back. So how do we get them put back as parking spaces? I mean, that's, I guess.
Should just be able to review that. If there's room there, there's no reason why there can't be parking spaces painted there.
Thank you.
I saw Bill taking notes, so. What, on either of these, the net change in parking is +3, is that correct? whichever, either one of these?
Plus 2, because you're losing one, right?
It's plus 3.
Or you're
There's
losing one
three,
on the
there's 3 on the green side
Yeah, that you're gaining.
that would be giving back.
And you're not taking any on the post office side that haven't already been taken?
Right.
And was any, the consideration of stopping in the street headed north or on the green side, was there any consideration of stopping in the street on the post office side?
I mean, we considered that. That's just super busy and short sight lines coming off of Seymour, and with no stop or yield coming off of North Pleasant. There are vehicles that are, they're already traveling 15, 20, 25 miles an hour or something. So it just doesn't seem like it would be safest or ideal to do something like that.
For one parking spot.
Right.
Yeah, just asking the question.
No.
Well, Brian actually brought up what I was wondering was an option A2. But I'm looking at the numbers, $528 a month, that's 17 to 18 a day, that's 2 an hour. It's not a high load, no matter how you look at it. I like the fact that you're addressing that option for the green side, or I keep calling it the eastbound, but I guess you're calling it the northbound. It seems, what about an A3 option, which essentially is on Main Street, kind of diagonal corner from the Battelle Block suggestion? You have the sight line, you have, it's right after you come over the temporary bridge, and seems like that would address the issue of restoring some of Joe's needs, which I think are very legitimate. I mean, when I hear people going to East Middlebury Post Office, and that kind of counters some of the energy efficiency that we're gaining by using the bus. So it strikes me that could be a third option, or an option.
Are you talking right in the center of the intersection between the two crosswalks?
Anywhere in that general vicinity. I was thinking actually just before the crosswalk that is on the temporary bridge side. But
Just before
in
that, I don't think the
geometric
incline
area.
would work for Actor, and we did look at the intersection itself where UPS and
Right.
FedEx drop off, and actually just beyond that last crosswalk also, there possibly enough room. Just didn't seem like a safe place that Actor wanted to be, and the conflicts with delivery vehicles.
Yeah.
Puts us dead center in the intersection, plus it reduces sightline for people trying to cross, looking up towards the Congo Church.
What about just to the bridge side of that the first crosswalk? So again, it's, I guess we're calling it, again, I keep calling it east and west, but I guess it would be the north side.
On the diagram, what you're talking about, Nick?
Yeah.
Yes. Anybody got a pointer? Anybody, where's that umbrella? Yeah, it won't show. Well, let me just
No.
migrate over here for a second. Right there.
There's a pretty significant slope there
Oh, that's
because
what you were
of
saying.
because
bridge.
of the
The
temporary
bridge.
bridge. I don't know that there's space between where that slope ends and the crosswalk.
There's also a handicap spot right
Yeah.
What these options do is staggers our bus stops also, which should in theory help with traffic flow. The schedule is designed such that you should never see two buses there at a time, but they're going to Bristol, they're going to Virgins, there's construction in Bristol right now. Things happen to the schedule. By staggering these stops, now you don't have the library right across from Cannon Park, you don't have the two at the post office. I think it actually helps traffic flow.
How many, if the pull off at the post office, how many spots are we losing there, parking wise? Only one, right?
Just one.
So,
And you'd think the post office would gain some of that, patronage back with the 3 spots across, because some people are going to pull off across the street who maybe are driving to East Middlebury now, if those 3 spots are returned.
Places are opening up quicker now too with the.
Enforcement,
made.
yes.
Yeah, places are opening up much faster than they were before.
Right, which we had hoped and expected. Mhm.
I think there's a benefit too to the second option in that for the riders, they're having now multiple stops, you know, depending on where they're going in town. Being let off at the Battelle, you know, is much closer to a lot of things than having to get off across from the post office and walk. So I think for bus patrons, it's a nice option because it gives you, you know, 3 different distinct spots in town to get off.
So Nick just mentioned that it's like 3 to 4 passengers per hour. Is that the average now?
It's actually 2 per hour.
2 per hour. So has it been the trend like this for how long?
We meet acceptable standards by state standards, 6 passengers per hour. They don't run every hour. There's a modified B schedule. Primary routes, bus is around the commuter times, and then we drop off that B bus option. So it's a little deceiving, but we do we have to meet state standards. We meet all of our routes meet state standards for acceptable. We would like to be closer to the successful. We also have seen passenger counts drop off in Middlebury. We've seen them increase in other areas.
Yep. So my question is, if you are averaging 2 passengers or 3 passengers, maybe 5 passengers an hour, have you ever thought about downsizing these buses? It takes up so much space.
Mean downsizing to
The size of the bus itself, because you're transporting air pretty much, right?
That's at some period times of the day.
Yeah.
We do have smaller buses, and on the northwest routes in Middlebury, the smaller buses run.
And you mentioned that the larger buses has a radius, turnaround radius, which is better than the smaller?
Each bus is a little bit different. You would think the larger buses would have harder time turning. Some of the smaller buses don't have the turning radius of the larger buses.
But my question is again, if you do not see an increase in ridership, right, from 2 to 4 to maybe 6, then you're still running a huge bus out of downtown.
We're always evaluating these routes, and we're in that process right now.
Okay.
If we weren't meeting state standards, and we do fairly well compared to our other public transit agencies in the state would come in and ask us to, they would give us a year to fix a route. Or cut it.
Let me just ask, is there anybody here who has not spoken? You haven't spoken yet, please.
No. My name's Dorothy Mammon, and I live here in town, and I ride the bus. I have a number of things, but one thing I want to say first off is I think we're incredibly lucky to have this bus system in our town. And it's very much my hope that when all is said and done and we get this bus stop thing figured out, that what I'm perceiving in town is kind of an antagonistic attitude toward the bus, or nobody rides the bus anyway, the bus drives around empty, which I have almost never found to be true when I've gotten on the bus. I would very much like to see that change over to looking at the bus as an ally that can help bring people into town when we have this construction underway, and you know, rather than a detriment. And I think the bus can really help with that. So, but I find it very unlikely to think that the bus is the cause of the reduced patronage at the post office. I think there could be lots of things going on, and but I do feel that if we, because the bus stop here is taking up 3 parking places, politically, if we don't address that, then every merchant that's struggling in the next 3 years is going to be blamed on the Actor bus, and I think that I'd like to see this turned around to a more positive thing. And maybe if we can go to one of these other stops that gives back the 3 parking places, we can do that. I did find in my own little personal parking study that if we enforced parking, the 2-hour limit there, it would return as many or more parking spaces as going with the less safe bus stop, which we're proposing here. So of the 2 alternatives that were proposed here today, I personally, as a bus rider, favor option A, the post office location, because of consistency, which bus riders like consistency, so that when they go to where the bus has always come, it comes there. Though, you know, of course, we get used to any change, but that is what the schedule says, and it is what we're used to. For me, I think it'd be easier to appear not to be waiting to cross the street at that location, because you could step back into the green a little bit and get out of the way, whereas right there at the Battelle block, I think, maybe Bill said some other locations, it looks like you're standing there to cross, and every car that comes by, you have to say, no, I'm not crossing, I'm not crossing, I'm not crossing. It's tiresome. And then maybe there'd be a little less traffic affected, because every car going down Main Street's gonna have to stop at the Battelle block, but up a block further, maybe some have turned off on Merchants Row, and there's fewer cars than where the bus is. So those are my thoughts. Anyway, I hope we can move forward positively and use the bus to our advantage during the bridge construction project.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Hi, Karen Duguay. I want to thank the Bills for their work on this, because I think that there was no easy answer to this. And the fact that they were willing to compromise and consider all of these angles, I really appreciate that. I have a question about option B. You indicated that you would not be utilizing this stop anymore. Can we turn that into parking?
There's not a dedicated pull-off now. It's just in the street or on the curb, correct, Bill?
You're referring to the Cannon side or the library?
Any. Whichever isn't going to be used anymore.
The library side.
Yeah, there isn't an opportunity for parking there.
It does not occupy a parking space now.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Irene Barna, a regular well, not daily, but I have been riding the Actor bus for 21 years to and from work on campus and now out on Exchange Street. So I do spend a lot of time daily parked there by the post office. And I realize the big issue on blocking the traffic coming out of the parking lot of the post office that the gentleman was talking about, the big problem for the bus is getting back into traffic. That perhaps not having the pull-offs, but the bus having to stop in traffic like they do in, I believe, most towns. I don't know how many towns have a pull-off place for all their bus stops. They just stop in traffic, which is no different, as several people have said, as stopping for someone in a crosswalk. So that it almost seems to me that just stopping within the lane of traffic might be the most expedient way to keep traffic flowing. But especially with the concern, I've noticed the problem that the folks have coming out of the post office. It is a problem because they can't see around the bus, and the bus can't get out into traffic. That's where the biggest delay is on the bus, is getting out into traffic from a pull-off.
Thanks, Irene. Ross?
Ross Conrad, Middlebury. I'd kind of like to echo what was just said. The health of the downtown businesses is so critical. In 3 years, we don't want to be in a really bad situation.
Just speak a little louder, Ross, please.
I would like to suggest that the Select Board consider reinstating all the downtown parking spots, including the handicap spot in front of the post office, the 3 spots across the way on the green side, and the spots up in front of the restaurant Corianders and any other spots that aren't being used for construction, and let the bus stop in the street. This way bus riders can still access the downtown, and this way, people can still park downtown. The businesses have some relief. They're already losing a lot of spots as it is. They really can't afford to lose any more. And by doing that, I think it's kind of a compromise. It's not the greatest solution, but none of the options we've looked at are good solutions, quite frankly. They all have downsides. This, to me, the drawback is, so people who drive downtown will have to stop behind the bus and wait for a minute or so while people get on and off. You know, as a driver, I'm willing to do that in order to, so that, you know, passengers can access the downtown and businesses can get their customers downtown. I think they're already doing street stops regularly anyway. As we just heard, pulling out is often the most dangerous and time-consuming aspect. It seems to me the street stops would be a good compromise, and putting all the parking spots back in might be the best solution, at least temporarily until the construction's done. Then we can work on some more permanent solutions. Thank you.
Fred Dunnington. I attended the Public Health and Safety Committee meeting, and one of the first things that was said in the meeting, it's not reflected in your draft minutes, but Tom Hanley said at the outset he doesn't like buses stopping in a crosswalk. And the recommendation was modified tonight from what's shown on option A to stopping back from the crosswalk, whichever, option A or B. And I support that. I think if any other vehicle were stopped waiting for a pedestrian to cross in the crosswalk, the parking space back of that would have to wait. And I agree with what Ross Conrad said as well. If it's difficult pulling out of the post office driveway and an operator of a vehicle feels that, you know, it's not a comfortable way to pull out, they'll wait. Drivers are smart and generally cautious. I think that I would support the recommendations of the people who are professionals who've thought about this and worked on the bills. And whichever option you choose, it should be stopping back of the crosswalk. And if there happens to be a car parked in that space behind, when the bus is there in that brief instant, well, they'll wait. Like any other vehicle stopped there they'll wait, and life will go on. Thank you.
My name is Eric Remsen, Middlebury. As you kind of think about this, I wanted to give you a couple things to think about. First, there was a comment earlier about the buses a lot of the times running mostly empty, and I just want you to consider as well a lot of the cars that are going in and out of town are running empty as well. Maybe they have one person, often not more than that. And so kind of along those lines, when we talk about parking, you know, it sounds like we're talking about lots of people, but 3 spaces, most likely that's 3 people that are potentially being lost. And so, you know, I guess thinking about that, it doesn't seem like the downtown is going to be make or break whether, you know, based on those couple of parking spaces. And then I guess the last thing that I just have you think about as you contemplate this is the fact that you know, those that ride the bus do so because they have mobility issues a lot of the times. Those that park downtown, they're able to own a car. And so a lot of this discussion seems to be about who is going to be given more advantages. And it seems to be those that kind of already have those advantages or those that maybe don't. And so that's something else to think about as you contemplate this matter.
I'm back. We now have a parking enforcement person downtown. It's taken us 1.5 years to find somebody, and I think that's going to aid with a lot of the turnover. In some recent surveys we've done of parking in the peripheral areas, one day we had 40 empty spaces in Frog Hollow in the middle of the day, and yet every parking space on Main Street was full. The Academy Street lot had maybe 3 or 4 cars in it at the same time. So I think we're going to be working to get these people that are parking long-term, that are maybe doing other things downtown than running into the post office, to get to these longer-term lots and try to encourage that with a combination of some enforcement and some education anyway. I know Heidi's committed to doing that. We've been lucky to get her out there in the last 2 weeks, and she'll continue that, try to direct people where to park. We've mentioned with Bill to get a parking sign back up showing that there is parking in Frog Hollow, because it's kind of a well-kept secret at this point. There's nothing to direct anybody there, and we're going to resolve that issue as well. So I think we're moving forward. And right now, when we look at where the bus is going to park, we've had discussions with that after the meeting yesterday, Laura, especially where we looked at the MUTCD standards for buffer zones on crosswalks. I talked to Bill this morning that we should have a 20-foot buffer zone on approach to a crosswalk, and that's certainly acceptable by federal standards, and Bill has agreed to move the stops away from those crosswalks. As far as anybody queuing up there, it's unlikely cars will stop for them thinking they're crossing at that distance from the crosswalk. So, I mean, I'm encouraged that the Actor has worked with us and with Bill to try to come to at least a temporary resolution to the problem, and I think at this point we're moving forward. So I certainly endorse what Bill's plan is at this point.
Well, actually raise the question, which of the option A or B do you prefer?
It would be option B. We didn't like stopping on crosswalks. That you're going to force people to walk around buses that are there. You want people to cross on the crosswalks, not in between, as a lot of them do now. With the Merchants Road change to one-way, that added to the safety of that. I guess it'd be the southern crosswalk there on Main Street at Merchants Row. That was a dangerous crosswalk before, when you had just conflicting turns. With one-way traffic, yes, I didn't like that crosswalk. My first recommendation was, when it showed the bus stopping at that crosswalk, was take the crosswalk out of there, black it out, and put bollards there to keep people from crossing. I don't think that's necessary now. The simple solution was move the bus away from the crosswalk. The crosswalk is safer, so I don't see the conflicts there that we anticipated with the original plan. So I understand the issues at the post office with the bus parking there. The bus can't be that close to the curb, yet if we park the bus on the other side of angle-parked cars in the travel lane, it creates a whole nother hazard of people having to walk in between cars to get to the bus, which we didn't like that either. So I think Bill's solution to that, and Bill's solution, I'm saying Bill times 2, is satisfactory at this point. Not perfect, but it's the best we've seen so far, and certainly something I can endorse.
What of the idea, I think Fred was, if I understand correctly, suggesting of the bus, the option A, but the bus stopping just prior to that crosswalk?
In the street.
In the street.
Yeah, I just worry about people walking between angle-parked cars.
Okay.
If there's somebody parked there, if you save the space by having the bus park in the street. I'm also worried about the bus stopping, and not exactly the bus being a hazard, but if there's 1 or 2 cars that are queuing up behind that bus, that's an awful short turn from North Pleasant Street before they hit the first car that's behind the bus. So that is a concern. It isn't just the bus there. There's plenty of queue space or plenty of open space for a car turning off of Seymour or coming off of North Pleasant Street, but once you queue 2 or 3 cars back there, as we saw during some of the construction, then we just get a rear-end accident or collision hazard. So I don't really like them parking in the street there, especially on a hill, on the grade like that.
Okay. I appreciate you coming forward, because that you're in the trenches daily and you see what happens, so thank you.
Yeah.
Back again as well. I would just like to offer an option to option B and put both buses on Main Street parked in the roadway. As you come off in Seymour Street onto Main Street, I'd like to see the bus back into the travel portion of the highway. I agree with Tom, it shouldn't be blocking a crosswalk, but if we can move it down into the center of town, that would give the emergency apparatus an option to see a line of sight. Tom's right, if we get cars backed up, we come around the corner, we're right in the mix right there. So if we could put both buses on Main Street and get the public to understand that buses are gonna stop in town. It's an asset, we need the buses. They're gonna stop in the travel portion of the highway and allow riders on and off. And have that become a common practice, and we won't be looking for spots off the side of the road. And we're gonna take up some roadway, but that's the brakes.
You're saying that the southbound bus would stop just opposite?
Yes, 20 feet down,
Yeah.
just the opposite from the other bus, right on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's where most of the people wanna go.
There's no room there, is
Yeah.
there? There's no room there?
On the opposite side of the.
Right here?
Right there. Yep. Right there, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is there room there?
Yeah.
Oh, the streets, yes, there should be room there.
Sure.
Chief, when they stop at the post office, it's not in the lane of traffic. as
It's
well.
not now, and the difficulty is that bus getting back into the highway. She's absolutely right, that it's a traffic hazard working back in there, and people are trying to race to that bus.
It's the same thing as any motor vehicle trying to get back in.
Correct.
So you have to, number one, give way to anybody in the crosswalk, any pedestrian.
So he's got to check the crosswalk, and he's got to look over his shoulder to see oncoming traffic. That's a dangerous situation. If we could get him away from that position and have him stop on Main Street where his tail of his bus is to the back of the crosswalk, 20 feet down, so they have line of sight, people could get on and get
What
off.
I worry about is congestion in this
Mhm.
area.
Yeah.
If there happen to be two there at the same
I
time.
think that would encourage people downtown. Just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
I spoke earlier briefly. I had a question. Well, I have one question and one comment. One is that we currently stop for school buses in the lane of traffic, and we're all accustomed to that. And we wait as long as we have to wait. My question is, we have some new markings. Lines have been painted, and across on the green side in front of the post office, there are cones blocking a couple of the parking places. And as a car driver, I'm confused what that means.
I can answer that. Yeah, there was confusion, and we had 3 crews that were doing night striping, and they striped that the way they had already striped it in the past. So the cones are to put it back to a bus stop while we go through this process. It is confusing.
They jumped to option A or B. Is there anyone else who has comments you'd like to make? Please.
Nathan Burt, I just really appreciate getting some data about the number of stops at the post office and, I mean, at the, post office. And I think if we could keep in mind looking for opportunities of how quickly parking spaces are turning over, how many people really are being served by cars as well in those spaces. I realize that those get turned over a lot, but you know, it's just a priority in my mind that we make sure we keep bus service working as well. So I like the conversation. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I think one of the things to keep in mind too is that, and we can't lose sight of, is that we're really looking, I mean, it's going to, as was mentioned, it's going to be a challenging couple of years. We have to do the work. It's going to be a challenge for everybody. So it's really somewhat of a, and I'm not a big advocate of cars in town. I prefer to walk distance personally. But it's to get us through this hurdle. And and ultimately our plans for master planning to downtown and looking at these details. So when the job is done, we may probably visit this again. But this is just a temporary interim to get us through a couple of challenging years.
So I'd like to say a few things. I really haven't had a chance to speak, if that's okay.
Can I close the hearing and then we'll discuss it?
Yes.
We're half an hour kind of past our,
Mhm.
and if we would like to discuss that and deliberate and try to move something tonight, then why don't it's 8:10, and I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you very much. Appreciate your efforts. I think you've given us some real good thought starters, and with that, I think Laura wants to speak to the select board here. Your thoughts.
Well, you know that I'm advocating for increased bus use, so I want us to consider not just the current statistics, but what the future statistics could be, and how liberating it is to actually use the bus, and that we want to be trending toward increased bus use, so we should keep that in mind, as we're making our consideration here. I've also done an exercise twice called Walk in Our Shoes, which you know about, where we simulate what it's like to be mobility restricted in using the bus, and I've watched mothers get off with strollers and seen what they have to do. So I know how the bus has to navigate for disloading and embarking mobility restricted passengers. So we should be keeping that in mind as we think about this. As a bus user myself, I've enjoyed the post office stop as a place where it's beautiful to sit there on the bench and wait for the bus. It's a good, comfortable spot. And the green side is also pretty nice. It would be nicer with a bench on that side too. But I mean, I've felt it's very important, and I've gotten to understand that it's the tri-town bus routes that really need that end of town in terms of access, not the Peterson loop, not the other loops, but once you understand the looping system of the buses, then you can appreciate why that end of town, those stops are needed. And again, it just points to the wisdom of having had the Merchants Row stops in the first place, which, we'll be looking at that, as we restore everything downtown. I've struggled with the two options, A and B, and I like both for different reasons, and I can see why we're kind of stuck, and I'll live with either scenario too that we come up with. But I just wanted to say that, I have a slight preference for the Battelle block scenario for safety. I think it does provide increased safety. And I don't know if Bill Cunningham could speak to the importance of the post office side remaining where it is as a pull-off rather than in traffic at Battelle block, where we were talking about in terms of the embarking and disembarking of mobility restricted
Yeah, the
passengers.
The post office side, it's wide down there. It gives us an opportunity to come in and not encroach on cars, our turning radius, even with somebody in the handicap spot.
Mhm.
It's still very doable. We're out of traffic.
Mhm.
I understand Chief Shaw's concerns about that. He's got a very important mission to do, coming around that corner fast. Cars are queued up. We are out of traffic.
Mhm.
We can talk more.
We've talked a lot, Bill.
Safety's our priority.
Absolutely.
It really is.
We're both on the same plane here.
Right.
Mhm.
That area right now is working very well for us.
And we have increased ridership on that side too. And it's a comfortable place to wait for the bus.
And it's increasing.
Mhm.
As the weather's gotten better, it's increasing. And we haven't, I just spoke to the postmaster before he left. I'll make a visit down there.
Mhm.
We haven't heard of any issues down there. It seems to be working very well.
Mhm.
Just out of curiosity, why is there such a difference between the two sides of the street? I mean, it's a substantial difference.
I think some people make their way down the street, doing their business in town. People coming into town want to get off on that side. If you go down to the hub, getting onto another bus coming back, the frequency isn't there. It's about frequency. So the system is a pulse system. People don't like to wait a long time. What we found with Academy Street, it's just enough geographically separated that, and it came out in a lot of our surveys, that it's a half-mile walk back to where they want to go, or they have to wait a long time. So coming in from Bristol and Virginia's, jumping off there is very convenient, and they can make their way down Main Street and then perhaps get on at the town offices.
Thanks.
Thoughts? Would you like to, I'm assuming that maybe we can deliberate and make a decision this evening so we can
Yes.
move this forward?
It's forward.
Given that we're at the start of the summer tourism season?
So if we make a decision tonight, are we gonna keep that decision in place, for the duration of the construction, or are we considering another short-term trial with another? I'm sure staff is cringing at my suggestion.
I might
Are
make,
we good?
I might make a recommendation that we would not set a specific trial period, that we would make a decision, and we would stick with that decision subject to major complaints or issues that were deemed appropriate that we relook at, but that we don't.
So maybe
This was a major change
Yep.
when we moved it there originally, and why we set up the trial period for review. But I think it's been reviewed once now, and maybe we fine tune it and live with it through the rest of the construction period.
I'm okay with that. So I will make a motion that we approve option B, as presented with the, stop on the Battelle side, 20 feet back from the crosswalk, for the duration of the downtown construction, pending any major issues identified by staff.
Second.
Okay. Comments on the motion? Questions on the motion? Are we ready to vote on the motion? Yes.
I mean, I'm going to vote for this, but I am concerned. I walk downtown a lot. I don't use the bus and I don't use my car. I prefer walking. And what I do find is cars coming into Middlebury from North Pleasant Street, coming around the church, are coming far too fast. And there ought to be some way to slow them down before they make the turn. Whether it's a bump or a bump out or something. I mean, I think that I mean, I've not made a systematic count, but I watch cars coming around as I'm walking, and I notice they're certainly far above the legitimate speed. But they're I mean, they're on a major highway, and then they're swinging into town, and they're going very fast. And I think that makes the post office stop problematic. And I think it would improve conditions a great deal if we could think of a way to slow the traffic down before it turns. I don't know how to do that, but I think that it ought to be an urgent consideration so that the Plan B will work, and because I think it continues to be a problem simply because of the speed of the cars coming around.
Victor, on Plan B, just, we're not changing
No, we're
that
not changing. I
particular
realize
stop.
we're not changing.
So
I realize
it's
we're not changing
basically
that.
as it is right
I would
now.
like to change it for that reason, but I'm willing to go along with it.
Yeah.
Because I don't see any other alternative. But
Okay.
I'm expressing a concern that what makes that particular stop difficult is the speed of the traffic coming around and entering Main Street from North Pleasant Street.
Yeah, and I think that's why Chief was making the point that to
And I
put it
think-
into the street there.
I think that something needs to be done. Some measures need to be taken to slow that traffic down. Probably people going to work, I realize that, and they want to get there. But they're driving far too fast.
So can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
In regards to the motion, are you saying you would be opposed to this motion and you would ask them to stop in the street if you slowed the traffic? Or how does that relate to our particular motion?
I'm going to vote for this motion because I don't see a better alternative. I mean, we've tried, we've come up with a compromise, but I still think the post office stop is problematic, but what makes it difficult in my mind is the speed of the traffic. And I think that
Well-
needs to be something rectified.
I'm glad that Victor raised that, and
It's a problem.
I agree with you, and that we need to calm traffic there. It's a
Yeah.
problematic spot, and I agree. And hopefully, one of our many councils or committees can tackle that. You know, we have learned a lot about traffic calming measures that can be taken at
We-
different locations, so
So
we'll
wait
have
a
to
second,
study
can we
it.
not get off, we're talking about a bus
Yeah,
stop here.
we are. I'm just
Okay, so,
concurring.
Go ahead and
Okay.
vote. I'm
so
simply
if we're
expressing
ready, if we're
an
ready to,
ongoing concern, which I will
gotta
raise
remember,
later.
that's a state highway, so you're not putting any traffic coming on a state highway, so, we've gone through that before. So, all in favor of the motion to adopt Plan B, amended to move that, to set back 20 feet from the crosswalk, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Thank you for working together, Bill and coming up with legitimate options that hopefully work well for everybody. And we'll look forward to getting some feedback, but not any mandatory trial period. Thank you. Okay. Karen. And Nancy. Karen and Amy, I'm sorry. I think Amy. Yes.
So you all received the MOU in your packet, and we're just looking for an approval of that language.
I can move to author. Do we need to discuss it because we've done it already?
I think we already discussed it.
Yeah, okay, so I'll
Well,
move.
this is different. This is the MOU for the experience-middlebury.com website, different from the MOU that you approved for the other work. So the Neighbors Together work was a separate MOU. This one is a memorandum of understanding for the BMP to be accountable for the content development and management of the new site redesign.
Okay, well, knowing that, understanding that, I'll move to authorize the town manager, Kathleen Ramsey, to sign that memorandum of understanding with the BMP for management and development of the experience-middlebury.com website.
Second.
Questions, anyone? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's.
Thank
we-
you. Guys have a good night.
We trust you.
Excellent. We appreciate that.
Do good
Can't
work.
wait, we can't wait.
Keep it up. Okay, Heather.
Yes.
Yes?
You
Yes.
want? So we're talking about,
Updates from the.
Dan and Bill are both here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to figure out where we are.
I didn't, okay.
Updates, so what would you like me to talk about?
Is there
So Bill
something that you would like to highlight to us?
Nope. Bill can come up and talk about paving on Route 30 if you want.
Okay?
Unless there's something you want more detail on, or something you have questions on, or anything.
I think the big question a lot of people in town have had is what's going on Route 30. And
Right.
so I think this is going to
Well, and that's,
potentially address that. So.
okay.
Yeah, so what's happening at Route 30 is the pavement's falling apart, at least on one side of the road. It kind of points to some form of failure during the paving process. Could have been water, could have been any numerous things, temperature, all kinds of stuff. It's beyond what we normally budget for repairs. It's beyond the normal size of a repair that our highway crew would do. We basically brought it to infrastructure. We discussed it, decided we would quickly go out and try to find some pricing for it, which we did. We sent, originally I had ECI come in and measure and give me a price for cold planing and strip paving in 2-foot increments. So basically just where the damage was, they would mill it, tack coat and pave. basically a patch, little high-tech patch, better edges, better seams, but still a patch. Then we, last week, went out and asked DNF and Pike and ECI to give us some numbers for shim and overlay. Originally DNF just did not respond. ECI said they would give us a number. They did not, have not replied yet. Pike did give us a number. And then earlier today, DNF did supply a number, but I have not had time to look at that. It initially looks like it would be more than the Pike bid anyways. And just to clarify, I think I had misrepresented to Kathleen what Pike is actually quoting here. The highlighted number here, which is 427 tons of asphalt for a total of $25,620, is a complete overlay curb to curb, roughly from Porterfield Road down to Academy Street. And that's your best repair option. We can do less than that, but that eliminates all of your seams. You just have one, milled cut and end, and it's going to give you the best wear out of anything. If we trim that down and do just one lane paving, you're probably going to find that center line starts to unravel with water, freezing, plowing, that type of thing. If highway goes out and it tries to patch that, it's pretty much the same cost as having it professionally done, and we're going to have to redo it every year. The patch that we put in will not hold up. Again, this is unbudgeted money. I'll leave that up to Kathleen on where, or how we could possibly pay for this, but operationally, it's not in the operational budget.
Well, professionally, I trust your judgment, and I don't want to do a half-baked job. So then the only question is, what's the funding source?
So I talked to Dan this afternoon about the possibility of using capital improvement dollars for this. That said, there's always a lot of demand for capital improvement dollars for paving roads. We may have to adjust the timing of one of our projects, plan for it next year, something of that matter, but there is funding available in the capital budget to cover this cost.
So what would be the one that's sacrificed this year, for lack of a better term?
I don't think anything would be sacrificed per se. We're all in preliminary design on our projects.
Okay.
We have to bid them out, so it may be that we won't get to everything this year anyway.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Bill, did they give any indication how quickly they could do it?
Will not be before Memorial Day, but Pike said the sooner the better.
Yeah.
So.
Read my mind there.
Yeah.
If I can just add something, the $60 per ton from Pike is really ballpark from where we've been past few years. So, price-wise, it's a good price. We were up to like 72 or 74 some years ago. So 60 is.
They're treating us well, is what you're saying?
Yeah, those well.
And I had a discussion with Dan earlier too, it'd be difficult to make this a not to exceed. This is a quantity bid, and if there's more shim up there than what somebody's looked at, or, maybe we need to go a little further in either direction or something, then it might change that quantity a little bit.
My name's Eric Davis. I live in Cornwall. I'm here because I drive that road at least twice a day, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day coming in. It's the major entrance into Middlebury from the south. And we were talking earlier about safety issues. There are safety issues there now because of the condition of the road, with motorists going to either side of the bad spots, and there's a lot of bicyclists on there. Or if people go the other way, then they may be on the other side of the center line. Now, I'm from Cornwall. It's not my taxes that pay for this, so I'm hesitant to mention this, but I would encourage you to go with the curb-to-curb replacement so that it's in good condition and does not have any of the safety issues.
Yeah, we appreciate that fact, Eric. This is actually a state road maintenance requirement, but they've told us they won't get to it till 2021. And so the town is going to shoulder the load, I guess, to make sure that the entrance to our town is the way it should be.
Well, that's appreciated, because there are a lot of people from Cornwall and Whiting and Orwell and Shoreham and so forth, all the towns to the south, that drive in and out of Middlebury that way.
I'm also from Cornwall, I drive it
Yep.
at least twice a day.
Yeah, thank you.
So just a clarification question, so we're talking about going with the highlighted number, which is not the curb to curb.
No, that is a curb to curb. What Pike did was they broke it up. There's
Segments.
there's some more deterioration outside of that area,
Okay,
but it's smaller. It could be patched with the highway crew.
so what's the 147?
That's basically from the state highway line by the golf course all the way to Academy.
Okay,
And the middle number is from bordering the cemetery area.
okay. So we're doing the curb to curb with the 25, yeah. So I'm just, we the infrastructure committee tasked Bill with putting together, some numbers and trying to address this as quickly as we can. So I haven't actually, other than tonight, we haven't talked about this, but I'm okay with moving that ahead, given Bill's work on it, as long as the rest of the select board is okay with that, so. And I appreciate Bill's efforts in answering my question specifically about getting it done professionally versus road crew, and what's that cost for them to go out every year and try to make it look decent, so. I don't know that we have much choice.
We have a choice. We do it wrong or we do it right.
Right.
And this is the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
You care to make the motion?
Sure, sure, I just don't know what I'm gonna say, but, I'll, make a motion that we, approve, Bill's recommendation that we go with Pike to, fix Route 30 for the price presented, which I can't read from here.
$25,620.
Thank you. That was a horrible motion, but you get the gist, right?
Got it, yeah. I'll second that, okay.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions before we vote? Okay. All in favor of supporting the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And Kathleen, you will work with them on tucking that into the budget.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Now I believe Dan has got a contract on engineering.
Okay, we discussed at the Infrastructure Committee the proposal from Tata and Howard for doing the evaluation of the wastewater plant. Bob and I have met with them a couple times. They came back to us with a proposal for $140,000 to complete that evaluation. Was that entire proposal in the packet?
Yep.
Yeah. So just to clarify, when you, and we talked about this at the committee too, this is a standard agreement form, and you'll see lines out and, for deletions and things like that. That's the standard form that is for this project. So don't think it's not complete. It is complete. It's just the way it has to be. So.
It has some, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it has something to do with the USDA approved
Format.
format, yes.
Yes.
And in order for us to potentially get funding for any future project, we have to have this proposal in this format, so.
Right, and so, so tonight we'll ask you to approve the proposal from, or an agreement with the town and Tata and Howard for the services. But I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. The USDA will not approve or review this agreement. That's not what they do. They fund construction projects. Gary Leach from Tata and Howard has talked to the regional USDA chief in our area about how this project can secure some funding. And preliminarily, they said we would qualify for up to 45% of the construction costs as a grant. So it's not a signed, sealed, delivered, but it's pretty much out there that that's kind of what we can expect. However, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund staff, environmental conservation people, they do review this agreement. And so we can approve it tonight with a condition that they accept the agreement. Don't expect any issues because Tate and Howard have done several of these. It's on the official format, but at least we can move it forward conditionally that the state approves it also.
So this came in this afternoon. With that in mind, Chris English prepared a revised recommendation for agenda item 10B, which is in your packet and on the screen.
Okay.
What's the period of performance, Dan? I didn't know if I overlooked it. I must have, I didn't see it anywhere.
I think it is like 8 months.
There's that's in the chart that's in there, right?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So, would you be so kind to put thank you?
There we go.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Tata and Howard for the 20-year engineering evaluation and facilities planning study for the wastewater treatment facility for a total cost of $140,911.70, contingent upon the successful submission and acceptance of a clean water state revolving fund loan application to fund the study.
1 second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Much better job with that one.
Yeah. The staff is amazing.
And just as a note, hopefully at the June 12 meeting, you'll have the funding loan application, very similar to the one we did just several weeks ago, long document, you all had to sign it, so I'll have that ready for you then.
Okay.
This is the planning loan for the clean water part of it, right?
Right.
Yes. Okay. So I know we don't have a lot of time and we're behind, but if people have infrastructure questions other than what's on the agenda, I'm happy to. Okay.
I think with the latest on the sidewalk next year, right? Out on Exchange Street, starting to construct?
Next year.
Okay, Bill, you're back with Farhad. Starting blocks.
Yeah, so we had a group come forward that wanted to make a donation for new starting blocks at the pool. They wish to remain anonymous, although I think their name is in your packet.
Oh, we took it out.
But that was basically a grant of $3,500. Dustin went out and did research on starting blocks, which is attached, and he also consulted with some people at the college, and we feel that the lowest price here is more than adequate for what we need. The total price of that is $7,836.18. That's well above mine or town manager's approval on something like this, so it's before the select board for us to spend the balance of that $7,836 minus the $3,500.
Questions? Pleasure of the board, Farhad?
I would like to move to authorize Kathleen Ramsey to sign a purchase order for the purchase of 4 starting blocks for the municipal pool from Pool Web for a total cost of $7,836.18.
I'll second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
There you go. So,
Jennifer is here to present her own memo on Arrowwood Consulting.
I just wanted to turn. You've been through every department ahead tonight. So, In your packet is a memo for me to hire a consultant, Arrowwood Environmental, to do a natural resource survey, starting with wetlands, working through core habitat, forest blocks, things like that, over the course of 5 years for $3,000 a year.
I'm sorry.
This was, so this was in the budget for, we've been budgeting this.
Yep, it's already in my administrative budget.
Yeah.
But I did want to bring it to you since it's over the course of 5 years.
Yeah.
And just make sure that if you had any questions about why it's necessary or anything, that I was here to field those.
So it's a 5-year period?
Yep, over 5 years. They could do it all at once for $15,000, but we thought we'd space it out a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Okay. All right. I'll move to award a 5-year contract for natural resources mapping for the town of Middlebury to Arrowwood Environmental in accordance with the professional services exception to the town purchasing policy, not to exceed a total of $15,000.
Second. Oh, Farhad can have it.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Thanks,
Thanks very
Jen.
much.
Let's see. Patel Park. Are you Tony?
For many years, we've had a sign posted on Chipman Hill and in the Patel Woods that specify the prohibited activities on those lands. One thing it hasn't mentioned in the past is camping. And we've had a problem from time to time with people camping in the woods on Chipman Hill primarily and also in the Patel Woods. So we would like to amend that sign, which originally was by order of the selectmen. So it must go by order of the selectmen again if we make a change, we assume. So we would like to add no camping and a couple of other changes to that list of not allowed activities.
In the trail making that's on the,
Cutting trails, new trails.
cutting new trails.
Renegade cutting of new trails.
Making new trails.
Right.
Cutting trees to make new trails.
Are there people
Trails
in there
are
cutting
maintained.
trees?
The trail system that we have, we
Yeah.
maintain them.
Okay.
But we don't want people making new trails without the authorization of
Right.
the trustees and the town.
And the Middlebury Area Land Trust does watch for that, and is maintaining trails and would work closely with the Patel Trust if they were going to be doing any renovation of trails in the system. So they too object to these renegade trails that are being made by
We work
others.
closely with Malt.
So this is mountain biking, and it's both exciting, but it's also hard to manage. So we do have a new mountain biking club called the Addison County Bike Club, ACBC, and they are trying to manage that as well. And I think we have them and Malt to thank for doing as much trail maintenance in
Malt has done a lot on the
Patel.
TAM.
Yes.
Of course, there are many more trails in Patel Woods and on Chipman Hill.
And who's doing that?
It's the TAM. We do.
You do it?
trustees.
Oh, well, it's beloved. Thank you. And I certainly support the changes that you're proposing tonight to make it clear, to the public on how to use those
There are, of course,
gems.
no sanitary facilities on those lands, so
Mhm.
camping is a problem.
Mhm. Well, I hope you know that we've discussed that in public health and safety also, just park maintenance or that, because we wanted to make sure that people were clear what the park hours were and also, the proper use of those properties. So we're reinforcing that as well.
We've never established any park hours.
Okay,
for
maybe,
the Patel lands.
So
True for,
I think the motion we'd be looking for then is to approve the new verbiage on the sign as opposed to the motion that's in here.
Okay.
So if somebody would care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the signage as presented, including all new terms of prohibited activities for the Patel Park.
Second.
You're the official motion maker.
Apparently.
She's
I'm
very,
trying-
she's
I'm
very
trying to
good
move
at
it-
helping,
I'm trying
she's
to
very
move this
good at
along.
helping me move the meeting along. So, questions on that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Check warrants. Linz?
Yep. So, a motion would be in order to approve total expenditures in the amount of $272,327.08, consisting of $178,245.84 for accounts payable, and $94,081.24 for payroll for the period of May 9th, 2018 through May 22nd, 2018.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Kathleen?
Just a couple of brief things. As a follow-up to your April 12th Select Board Strategic Planning session, the board has agreed to meet again on Tuesday, June 12th, from 5:30 to 6:45 to continue that work. I'll send out a reminder closer to the 12th. The 12th is your regular meeting date for the first meeting in June. I did some brainstorming with Fred Kinney on the Middlebury Economic Health Committee proposal and included that in your packet, so you can start thinking about that also for the strategic planning session on the 12th. Happy to announce on May 25th, the Public Works food drive community event. The Town of Middlebury Public Works Department is sponsoring a food drive to mark National Public Works Week from May 20th to May 26th, culminating on Friday, May 25th, with the community event at the recreation facility on Creek Road from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. All donations of non-perishable food items and/or cash will benefit HOPE. For full details, including a list of drop-off locations for food items, can be found in the flyer in your packet this week. There's also a drop-off container here at the town offices. A couple of other things coming up in June. The first public meeting to gather ideas for Triangle Park and Printers Alley post-construction has been scheduled for Tuesday evening, June 25th, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the town offices. Also, the first public meeting to gather input on siting of a rail passenger rail platform will be on Tuesday, June 19th from 7 to 9 in the large conference room of the town offices. And that is my report.
Thanks, Kathleen. Board member concerns. Laura?
Well, I just want to clarify what I just said about town parks, because it is confusing, like who owns what properties, because some are held by trust, and some are managed by Malt, and some are managed by us. So just to clarify that, there's a new page at our town website for Parks and Recreation, and within that page, you can click on town parks, and you can see a listing of all the town parks and their hours. So that's a new feature of our town website, and that also allows us to also access other useful parks and recreation resources that normally you access through the Experience Middlebury website, but because that's under construction, we needed a place to park those things, so now we have it here. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And I live in the shadow of Chipman Park, and we have had bear activity in our neighborhood, and so we're learning to live with the bears. And and just understand that we're just going to be respectful of one another. And we've been taught by our police department, what to do about that. So again, just, remember to just keep respectful distance and not entice them, with food offerings. So I'm also impressed with the number of notes in our packet, which is a reflection of how busy so many people are, ourselves as well as many, many, many citizens thinking of lots of good ideas. And that's why our follow-up meeting is so timely. As we were taught in our first session, we have a wealth of ideas that come before us, and it's a real challenge to hold them all. But it's wonderful that we live in a community that is robust with all of that. So just wanted to say that.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
I just want to say quickly that I appreciate and, don't say it enough, the staff that we have in this town. I'm just really impressed tonight on the work that Bill and Bill did, even though Bill Cunningham's not technically staff, but the work together they did, and all the time and energy they've put into infrastructure projects, and obviously Kathleen and Chris, and so I wish I thought to say it more, but I'm appreciative of staff, so
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
I have nothing to add.
Victor?
Well, I did express my one concern earlier about the speed of traffic, but I might say, as someone who likes to walk around town, the traffic in this town drives altogether too fast. And it does. There was a very, I think, perceptive letter in the Addison Independent last week on this issue, and I think we really do need to consider
Slow down.
measures, effective measures of traffic calming and slowing traffic, and getting people to walk. I mean, not use their automobiles, not necessarily because they rely on a bus, because they rely on their 2 feet, which
Or wheels,
I'm
2
told
wheels.
is a sure way to good health, and so I think, I'm simply proposing this as a concern, but it seems to me perhaps Laura and I can have a conversation about this.
Okay, Lindsay?
Nothing, thanks.
Talking about bears, I had a bear about 15 feet, about 5 yards from my front porch at my camp. I was letting the dogs out, and neither one of them saw that bear. I got them back in the house before they saw the bear. It would have been a bad situation. Especially my little white dog.
Somebody
So,
posted a picture of that Chipman Park, the mama and 3 cubs.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Beautiful picture. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we have a need for executive session to discuss contract negotiations, not legal matters, just the contract negotiations. So if somebody would lead us into executive session.
I could do that. In accordance with Vermont's open meeting law, the following 2 motions are in order prior to entering into executive session.
It's okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, all right. In accordance with Vermont's open meeting law requirements, I move that the board find that premature general knowledge of the consideration of a pending contract negotiation and a legal matter would... No?
No legal matter, just
Oh,
contract.
okay, just contract? Okay. Just a pending contract would clearly place the Select Board at a substantial disadvantage because the Select Board risks disclosing its litigation strategy if it discusses the pending contract negotiation in public.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
I further move that the board enter into executive session to discuss the pending contract negotiation under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So, going into